Hello. Ah, man, just a really crappy day. And I guess I just want to talk and share. Ah, fuck. Such a shitty day. And I share, successes on this channel and just general thoughts and explorations of ideas, but maybe it's useful just to share a shitty day. Useful for me, hopefully, maybe, if nothing else. But it's real. This life is tough. I've got OCD. And it sucks. And it's ruining my life. It has ruined my life in many ways. And today was a big setback. And it's a theme that nobody ever talks about. And I know that's a thing that OCD does, is it says, well, that theme over there is OCD, this one's not, or, you try and look for the exact same theme. And there's always a way in which OCD says, yeah, but that's a different one. But this, I think, is genuinely in a different category than I ever really hear people talk about. So I'm just going to talk about it because maybe somebody out there someday, somehow, some way will connect with this and feel some relief. I posted about this pattern on YouTube once in a comment, and like 2 or 3 years later, somebody found it and said they found great relief, that they'd been looking and looking and looking and finally found somebody that described what was going on for them. I get so few views on this channel. That's not a complaint. I'm just saying statistically it's going to be unlikely that somebody would see this, but you don't know how God's going to work. And if I get the right title on it, maybe somebody will look it up someday and find some relief finding this. But I have an OCD theme around confronting people. And I'm going to describe it. And if you haven't dealt with it, especially if you haven't dealt with OCD at all, you're not going to get it. If you're really empathetic, you may get a slight sense of it and give some credence to it, but more than likely you're not going to get it. Even if you have OCD, it might still be a little bit hard to understand it, but I think you'll understand the pattern, if nothing else. If somebody is disrespectful towards me or sends ugly energy towards me, it fucks me up. Now, I think that's the case universally for all of us. We can say it doesn't, people being unkind or ugly towards us doesn't bother us. And for some enlightened people out there, maybe there's it, or catatonic people, it just doesn't register. But if you're a living, breathing human being, on some level it registers. I think mostly people who say, people being unkind or ugly towards them, most of the people that would say it doesn't bother them. It does, but they're numb to it, and or they are disassociated from their feelings, or they're just sort of emotionally closed off. Now, I will definitely acknowledge there's a gradient here of how much something bothers you, how egregious an offense is towards you, uh, is one thing. How much it bothers you, there's a range of possibilities there. Somebody could be very bothered by something that somebody else is not that bothered by, or I guess, yeah, even at all. But there's some kind of a normative middle ground, 80% in there, where somebody does something ugly. For the majority of people out there, it's gonna not feel great. For me, I've got problems with my nervous system. That's part of it. I've talked about this in other videos, and so if somebody does something that feels off, or I feel disrespected or something, if I address it in the moment and I have the presence and the poise and the centeredness, in a way that feels aligned to respond, that can make a big difference. But often I don't, especially in a work situation when I'm stressed out, I'm trying to work, doing other things, and a lot of this stuff catches me by surprise. My brain short circuits, my nervous system goes crazy. I just don't think of something at the time, and then I'm stuck with that energy. And I've gotten better with this. If you knew my whole story and you saw the path I've been on through just the madness of this pattern of OCD, the way it can utterly upend somebody's life. If you saw all that, the trenches I've been in with this and with other things, you definitely see major progress. 100%. And see, this theme is a little bit tricky because it mixes in with other things. There's a truth there that OCD just totally distorts, which is, having good boundaries. And I had never had that growing up. I felt I wasn't really allowed that. Wasn't taught it, and felt I wasn't really allowed that. And that's a really tough thing. There's a lot of downstream consequences, negative impacts, and so I've always struggled with that, and I'm not good with it now, though I've gotten somewhat better. It's a major difficulty for me, a major challenge. And listen, we've all got challenges. I'm not, this isn't a sob story or something. I'm just being honest about where I'm at. And so there's a truth in there. You want to be able to assert a boundary, to speak up. Those are all psychologically healthy things. But it's it so hijacks the nervous system, the OCD pattern energy. I'll even say it's probably, if we understood it in its totality, I think it's, and I don't mean to freak anybody out here, but I think there are spiritual dimensions to this, ways that unscrupulous, I could just say evil forces, subtler forces, manipulate us. I can imagine that sounds like a really crazy thing to say. And I've done other videos going into how I see that, and it's actually a Christian mystic, I guess. I'm not sure how to classify him. Swedenborg, Emanuel Swedenborg, 17th century, I think. He's kind of like a Da Vinci of Sweden, kind of a polymath Renaissance man. Anyways, he makes a similar case. He had just like a 50 years worth of these deep spiritual experiences in other realms, and that was one of the takeaways he had, is how the hell realms interface with and influence our mind with obsessive thinking and It wasn't called OCD 400, 300 years ago, whenever he was around, but he describes it pretty well. Anyways, that's an aside, just to make me seem a little bit less crazy for saying that. But it doesn't matter the etiology, it doesn't matter the origin, really. In some ways it does, but not for what I'm describing here. But I guess because I've been abused in the past, I've got wounding around this issue, and people just being shitty to people. Welcome to planet Earth. Trespassing boundaries, having zero awareness, not caring, not being able to have an honest conversation, and me not having the skills to, in the moment, correct something. What happens is I get this energy stuck in my nervous system, and I just dysregulate. Strong dysregulation can go on for months, where I just deteriorate over one thing. It's more horrific than I could possibly put into words. And putting it into words is a fear of mine, because it doesn't sound like, how could this be such a bad thing? Well, it's hard to describe if you haven't experienced it, but trust me, it's bad. Then you're losing sleep, you're dysregulating, you're constantly on edge, which it just starts all these negative feedback loops. And you're trying not to be homeless, you're trying to work, you're dealing with shitty people. I've gotten somewhat better at processing stuff out of my system and letting certain stuff go. But every now and then, something just will not let go of me. And in my mind, I think, okay, well, this means this is something that I need to address with the person. So the obsession is the thought of, like, this is what this person did to me, and it just replays over and over and over. And then I start getting these scripts. This is how I have to confront them. I have to go up to them and I have to say these exact words. I have to get this out of my system by speaking it a really specific way and confronting them. It's madness. It's total madness. It's a horrific thing to live with. I wish it upon nobody. I would wish this upon nobody. It's cost me a job in the past. It's close to costing me this current one I'm on. See, with OCD, in a sense, I could step back from this and say something more conventional, like contamination OCD, where you feel like you've got something gross on your hands or wherever on your body. You have to wash it over and over and over again. And so you're obsessing over the feeling of contamination, being out of alignment. And then the compulsion, so that's the O, and then the compulsion is the ritual washing over and over again until your hands are fucking numb, till they're red, till you're chafing off skin. And it only makes it worse. It's evil. It's awful. It's hell. It's really hell. This is the same thing. Totally different context, totally different circumstances, but it's a feeling of being contaminated with somebody else's energy, being out of alignment. That's the obsessive part. And then the compulsion is I have to confront them and I have to say these specific things to get it the fuck out of my system. If I don't do it, I just suffer. Where's the justice in that? And at this job, it's a really hard job, even with a totally sound mind. But with the stuff I've got going on, it's the fact that I've made it 6 months is sort of a miracle / testament to, I guess, human endurance or something. I'm ashamed in a way to talk about all this, and I'm afraid of just sounding overly dramatic, but it makes me do everything in my power to avoid interacting with people, because I know they're going to be shitty, and they're going to. So you isolate to avoid getting stuck in these circumstances, and that creates its own problems. And again, it's all blended in with, little elements of truth here, because there is a power and something good and true about being able to talk to people. But most people in this world don't have a fucking clue how to talk, how to have an honest, vulnerable conversation. If that's you, if you are able to do that, celebrate that. It's really rare in a human life to come to the point where you can be open. Not a doormat, also not an aggressor. Just vulnerable, open, honest, true about your experience. In a way that you're expressing yourself with integrity. You're not belittling or attacking the person that you're talking to. There's space there for genuine connection and transformation. But you incarnated on the wrong planet. You do realize that, right? That's not what we do here on this planet, unfortunately. There are some of us out there that are able to do that, willing to do that, looking to have genuine connection. Without manipulation. But it's so hard to trust people that are, what do I want to say here that's going to be relevant? And so I've got a boss that I work with. He's a good guy in so many ways. I mean, a good guy, and I've enjoyed working for him. Part of the reason I've stayed so long is I've felt supported by him, and I felt like I had a good connection with him. I decided recently, I did a video about this, it's time for me to look for another job, and so I wanted to talk to him, and I asked to talk to him. I've worked my ass off at this job, man. I've given so much to this company, worked so hard. I can give myself credit for that. I am a damn hard worker. Showed up every day in a context where probably 70% of the workforce could give a shit, zero work ethic. A good day for them is doing absolute bare minimum. The less, the better is a good work day for them. That's not my ethos. I show up and I want to work. I want to earn my paycheck. I'm not there to socialize. I'm not there to vibe. I'm not there to coast. I'm also not there to be rude or unkind or unfriendly. No, those are all good things, and I do that. But primarily, I'm there to work and do a good job. And I've done that in spades. And you have to just let go of so many things, because there's so many people just being kind of egregiously unethical, poor workers, etc. it's too many fires, to try to put out if you hold on to your value. Anyways, but I wanted to talk to this guy that I work for. And I asked him on Saturday. Today is Tuesday. Today is Monday. He said he didn't want to do it Saturday. It was like the middle of the day. He said, no, I can't do it. Let's do it Monday morning. Monday morning rolls around. Nothing. So I go up and I ask him. He says, yeah, I'll make time. And the idea was I wanted to talk to him one-on-one, And he knew that. Pretty sure. I mean, that was the implication. And he waits till the very end of his shift while he's busy doing something else and says, you can talk to me while I'm doing this. And so I said what I felt comfortable, and we're out, in a busy hallway. So I said a few things that I was comfortable in public talking about. And I said, hey, are we going to be able to talk privately? We could go. And I suggested a place we could go. And he said, I'm just about off here. He said, let's do it tomorrow. At that point, I was pretty frustrated, I waited now, it'd be 3 days to get 5 minutes of this guy's time, and that's kind of a supervisor's job in my mind. Let's talk, support the people that are working hard for you. I've asked him once in 6 months besides this to have a one-on-one conversation. And so I told him, I said, hey, I'm frustrated. This is now going to be 3 days or whatever. I work so hard. I feel like 5 minutes of your time is not asking for too much. He didn't like that. He said, I can't remember what he said, but something like, well, it's going to be tomorrow. And that was, especially coming from him, I've never seen him be quite like that. Anyways, so now I'm really pissed off. I mean, the reason I wanted to talk to him in private was because I've been feeling like things are off between he and I. He's usually pretty friendly, and there's been kind of a coldness or a terseness or even sometimes a rudeness. And I wanted to ask him about it. And I was willing to apologize if there's something I did, but I wanted to have a talk about it. And that was my mistake, I think, in all of this. I don't think he handled this well. I mean, 3 days to get 5 minutes with somebody, and it wasn't like we were really busy today or anything. There were so many opportunities if he had just wanted to do it. In fact, I went afterwards and I needed to vent and I needed to get some perspective, and the manager of the store and I have actually connected a few times, and he was on the floor. This guy oversees this whole big store, and then in there he was able to step aside and have a private conversation with me, which I just mentioned because it just shows it's not that hard if you just, take 5 minutes. It really doesn't, if you wanted to make it happen. And that was the other thing, is if you don't want to talk to me, just tell me. I'm okay with an honest no. But if you tell me you are, and then you keep pushing it back, yeah, it's going to be frustrating. So I don't think he handled that well, and I'm upset about it. And I think that is healthy. I think that's a healthy response. And I talked to the store manager and explained it as best as I could. I said, I want feedback here if you don't mind. He seems to be a fairly balanced and emotionally intelligent guy. And he agreed for the most part that, if you're a supervisor at that level, you need to be willing to talk to people you supervise. But I look back at all that, and the thing I fucked up is I should have just let it go and not tried to have a one-on-one. That's where I fucked up, and that's the OCD, if you're following any of this. Had I just pushed through that, and I had indications that this OCD, it's just so convincing. It feels so real, and it fucks with your body and your nervous system in a way that you're held hostage in a way. You're not really, because you have a choice, which is I'll just suffer. The anxiety, the lack of sleep, the dysregulation, it being harder to hold a job when you're going through all that. You've got less capacity to interact with people. Your emotions are all over the place because you're dysregulated and not sleeping. You suffer. You really fucking suffer. So when people tell you with OCD, just push through it, don't feed it, don't say that too glibly, because I don't care who you are with OCD. If you've been suffering with this for a long time, that's going to be very difficult to do, and it's going to cause a major disruption in their life. And especially if you got compromised nervous system and other things. I mean, ultimately, it is the advice that makes sense, but just be careful with just throwing that at people, because it's not so simple. None of this is easy. None of this is simple. None of this is easy. It's more brutal than really words can convey, at least how I experience it, and I think a lot of people experience it. But that's where I fucked up. I wish I just had not pushed to try to talk to him in private. He didn't handle it in a mature way. He was wrong. I can say that, and I don't feel I feel like I'm being pretty discerning, and that's good judgment on my part. But I fucked up because I just should never have gone there. And so now I've got the kind of OCD relapse hangover, where I'm feeling panic. It sucks because I've compromised this relationship that was pretty important. Now it's going to be hard to get like a recommendation from this guy. I don't have a good good resume right now because of recent. It's complicated. My life is complicated, and there's so much shit talking in the department, and it's just going to make things 10 times harder. And that's what OCD does. It ruins your fucking life. And that's its goal. You know, we don't have to personify the disease. You can look at it as just a pattern. I don't look at it that way. I see it as a form of evil. I see it as a form of evil. And what it seeks to do is to destroy your life. And it will. It will. And so when you man, it sucks. It really sucks. And it's not something that I could really explain. I mean, it takes a certain level of compassion, empathy, but also intellectual, psychological, emotional sophistication to understand what's going on, to comprehend what OCD is all about, especially if you haven't experienced it. Man, it's... Anyways, so a lot of this is self-therapy on this video, so have some grace for me, forgive me. I'm choosing to share it because this is raw, this is what's up for me right now. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, maybe God will shine some grace on me. I doubt it. I really doubt it with this particular thing. But it's possible he could come up and say, hey, I apologize, you're right. You work hard here, and I should have made more of an effort. I really struggle with having, one-on-one conversations. That's a weakness for me. Or he could say, I've really been going through a lot of shit in my life right now, my family life, or something to kind of be vulnerable and humanize it, and apologize. I mean, that's possible. Anything is possible. Is that likely? Not at all. Not at all likely. I don't have any expectation, but that would make a huge difference. And see, the thing with all this is I'm always willing to apologize. If somebody in a genuine way says, hey, you hurt me there. Or, hey, this has really been not working for me, this thing that you're doing. And they do it in a way that's in alignment for them, has integrity, but is also respectful. I mean, is that too much to ask? It is too much to ask, but it's what I offer. You know, when I'm upset about something, I do it in a respectful way as best as I can, just owning where I'm at, saying this came across this way, it really hurt. And, you know, I've done other videos about how to communicate, but it's possible he could say that. That would be amazing. And I'd be open to it. I'm so open to receiving an apology. It's weird because I do go out and I offer apologies when I fuck up, especially with this OCD pattern. And sometimes I'm really right and it was appropriate for me to confront and to talk about something. And sometimes I go too far with it and it's the OCD running the show. And I go back and I apologize. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But people don't apologize. That's another. At some point, you have to run the race for yourself and for God, because you will bleed out waiting for somebody to meet you where you're at, or to, you know, in this case, apologize, or to be vulnerable. You know, doesn't mean that you have to. See, that's the hard thing about this world, is because it's so endemic, the way we relate to each other and we manipulate and we hurt each other, it's so hard not to fragment in that direction. And there's so little justice on this planet. And yet God puts us in this situation, and God also puts a sense of morality in us and a sense of dignity and integrity in us. It's a cruel game. Sorry, God, I don't mean to be. I'm angry right now. And it's a cruel thing to do both of those things. Put us in an ugly world and make us all psychopaths. Then there's no conflict, right? Put us in a heaven world and give us the internal sense of dignity that you've given us. Beautiful. But what God does is something totally different. I'm going to put you in a hell realm, or at least a very confused madhouse, which is the majority of the planet. I hate to say it. You may have noticed. And at the same time, I'm going to give you a human heart, which bleeds, which hurts, which cares, which suffers, which feels pain, which has a distaste for injustice, which has a distaste for manipulation and lies. Why give us that and put us into this world? And so you don't do it for other people. It has a knock-on effect of sometimes helping other people. Sometimes, occasionally, grace breaks through and there's a transformative moment. And that can buoy you and buoy your spirit, and that's great. But you can't rely on that. It's not going to be the majority of the times. It's not going to be predictable. You can't trust. It's not reliable. Other people are not reliable. And so you do it for God. You do it because it's right. You do it for you, because you don't want to degrade your spirit. And you will suffer. And I'm one of the loonies too. I've got confusion, I've got darkness, and that's a very Christian thing to say, right? We're all sinners before God. But there's a shadow to that too, which is to say we're all equally fucked, we're all equally confused. And that's just not the truth. Some of us have put great effort into healing, put great effort into living a different life, to not manipulating, to living, from a place of integrity, to valuing integrity. Fall short, of course. At some point, not even because of, some points just because we're in this crazy world. My intention going into the day is not to hurt people. I can tell you that. But this confrontation theme, OCD, is what I'm going to call it. I think the video is very tough because it involves other people in very consequential ways. It also latches on to this feeling I have inside of me of willing to do whatever the fuck it takes to live the truth, to be free. And the OCD can hijack that value and pervert it and say, oh, okay, this is your boss and you're just not willing to confront him because he's your boss. Are you really willing to live and die for the truth? Are you really courageous? It's that kind of, it fucks with you that way. Very insidious. Perverts everything you value, corrupts everything you value, attacks everything you value. And so with a theme like this, it's doubly hard because any OCD theme is awful. But some of them, just speaking from personal experience, have less. They all have consequences, and most, depending on how severe it is, major consequences for your life. But some even more so, and the ones that involve other people, it's a special kind of hell. I think with that, I don't really need to explain that, but if I'm in my house just suffering alone with washing my hands or needing to move a certain way to balance my body, and not getting it right, needing to readjust things, that's slavery, absolutely. And it's awful, it's horrific, but it's somewhat more contained. This just broadens the field into everyday life, insinuates itself into every dimension of your life. There are other themes that involve other people, and it's unfair. It's just not right. It's brutal. Now I could do the psychologically, spiritually correct thing and say, no, it's God giving you a test to overcome. Fuck that, man. I don't give a shit, No. No. It just sucks. It's just fucking brutal. It should not be this way. I would never, ever, ever design life this way. Anyways, so that's the rant. That's me being angry, upset. When you relapse like this and it's in a major way and potentially major consequences, it's such an awful, sinking, awful, panicky feeling. If you're going through that, it sucks. I've been going through that all day since this interaction. And since it was such a bad, disrespectful interaction, that just triggers the cycle even more forcefully, right? Now I got to confront about this thing and clear this one out. And I feel like I let myself down. by falling for the OCD again. I know that's not helpful, but I feel shame. I feel like, fuck, man, I've been trying so hard. There's so many things I've gotten right, and then it just comes in and fucking destroys things. So anyways, take care.